Hello there, you're watching our television. This is State of Business. I am Pamutha Katukampala. Our top stories. Increasing visa fees is not a good decision, MP Diana Gamage says. Government will follow the policy of country first, Foreign Minister tells in Parliament. Welcome back to State of Business, and now let's have a detailed look at the stories. Now, State Minister of Tourism Diana Gamage yesterday told the Parliament that Sri Lankan embassies in other countries must be given the targets on trade and the process should be supervised systematically. During the budget debate on the expenditure, heads of the Ministries of Foreign Affairs, Transport and Media, she also voiced against the government's decision of increasing the visa free for tourists and said that tourists should be provided on arrival free visa.
The embassies abroad who are representing Sri Lanka are the main face in any country for Sri Lanka. And these diplomats, I think, should be given the targets of bringing in trade promotions and also tourism and promoting tourism in these countries. So I think this is a vital and very important and significant thing that we should be doing, and also not only giving them the targets, we should be reviewing all these things. Time to time there should be reviews whether these are happening, because I know there are lots of embassies in other countries, most of them actually just there for the sake of it, and a very few are working towards bringing any promotions and investments towards Sri Lanka. We have actually increased the visa fees, and I would like to say at the present moment we are looking at the tourists coming into Sri Lanka, and I actually suggested, I think at the Select Committee meeting as well on tourism, that we should be actually giving visa on arrival and it should be free, because at the moment if there's a charge of $35, there are tourists who are coming here who are willing to spend over $1,000. Are we going to look at the $35 visa, or are we going to look at the $1,000 they are willing to spend? So I think with the tourism industry just starting to grow back again, to revive it, I think we should, and I do propose, and I hope it's been considered, that we should be giving visa on arrival.
Meanwhile, former SLPP chairman Professor G.L. Perry stresses that the government must first restore credibility on what they utter just to receive the attention of the foreign nations. One-time foreign minister who recently became an independent in Parliament, Professor Perry made these observations during the budget debate in Parliament yesterday.
I think the most important ingredient of foreign policy, Mr. Presiding Member, is credibility. What we say must be believed. It must be taken seriously. Now, the government has told us that they are planning to solve the ethnic issue through a completely new constitution. The government has said that they propose to do this before National Day, Independence Day, the 4th of February. Now, there are governments that have been in power in this country with 5-6 majorities, 2/3 majorities. All those governments have made an attempt to get to grips with this problem and to come up with a viable solution. But so far, all those attempts have failed. Now, does anybody believe that before the 4th of February, the present government is going to solve this problem? Is there a minimum of credibility? Is there anybody on the planet who takes this statement seriously?
Independent MP Professor G.L. Perry also charges that the government is just making statements and no genuine requirement to implement those. During the budget debate on the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, he said that having a commission like Truth and Reconciliation will take a considerable time and it cannot be done within a month or two.
We are also told that there will be a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Now, will this be on the model of the South African Commission? The South African Commission had an exhaustive investigation. They summoned the oppressors and the victims, the people who were responsible for horrible atrocities, and the persons who were killed, maimed, mutilated as a result of this. They were all brought together. And then people like Desmond Tutu played a key role. They inquired whether there was genuine contrition, genuine repentance. If there was repentance, there was amnesty. If there was no repentance, then the criminal law was set in motion. There were indictments. Now, are we going to do this? Is there any serious intention of bringing the armed forces, the police, in touch with victims? Is there any earnest desire would believe any of these promises?
See you soon with more stories after this short commercial break.
IWS Aviation.
Welcome back. You're watching State of Business. Now, Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna MP Dilan Perera, who is part of the SLPB opposition group led by Dala Salha Peruma, says that as a country, Sri Lanka has failed to maintain a strong foreign policy during last few decades. Parliamentarians said that what the government was doing, taking reactive foreign policy for petty political advantages.
Countries comparable to Sri Lanka in size and economic power have been able to achieve success in foreign policy arena through consistent diplomatic efforts. The consistency of Cuba's foreign policy has brought them great success in the international sphere, with only 2 countries voting against their resolution at the United Nations General Assembly in 2022. We have to either possess the political economic might of countries like Singapore and Israel, or have the solid international network of countries like Cuba, preferably both. Sadly, Honorable Foreign Minister, Sri Lanka today has neither. In recent times, Sri Lanka regrettably has engaged in reactive foreign policy, abandoning its time-tested all-weather friends of the international arena for petty domestic advantages. A major bubbling around to fulfill political dues, sacrifice the national interests. For example, the Aeroflot fiasco, the former Foreign Secretary saying India first, etc. Inconsistency in foreign policy does not augur well for the country, and it leads to the erosion of trust of friends for Sri Lanka. This was evident in the large number of abstentions to the resolution on Sri Lanka at the recent session of the UNHRC. Most of these abstentions were by countries that were once steadfast friends of Sri Lanka. We need to ask what we have done to promote our relations with these countries over the past decades. We neglect our friends in the international arena and seek them out at our time of need.
Parliamentary Dilan Perera also voiced on the due training for the officials and new recruitments. MP Perera said that instead of making the Foreign Service a part of a party politics, it should be maintained with a clear vision of national interests.
Politicization of the Foreign Service at the expense of investing in a professional, well-trained Foreign Service has been the bane of our foreign policy debacles in recent times. This is the key to carrying out a consistent foreign policy crafted on the basis of national interest, regardless of party politics. While everybody agrees on the need for a professional Foreign Service, hardly any concerted effort is made for regular recruitment and provide continuous and regular training to Foreign Service officers. Solid training and induction, mid-career, and even at head of mission level is imperative. I am not disparaging that the work done by the Bandaranaike Diplomatic Training Institute, but a robust practical curriculum to suit Sri Lanka's national requirements in the 21st century is non-negotiable. I regret to point out that English language needs more emphasis in the Foreign Ministry. Recruitment in the Foreign Service was last done in 2018, which needs to be done on an annual basis. It is reported that 40 officers will be recruited to the next batch of the Foreign Service. Skipping recruitment for years and then recruiting large batches is not the same as regular recruitment. Officers of the Foreign Service serving as heads of missions are asked to retire upon reaching the age of 60 without even completing their customary tenure at a diplomatic mission. However, measures are now underway to appoint much retired persons formerly of the Foreign Service to important stations.
Meanwhile, Foreign Affairs Minister Ali Sabri, delivering the reply speech at the debate on the expenditure head of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, said that all decisions taken by the government will follow the country-first policy. Foreign Affairs Minister Sabri also reiterated that the government will not be taking anybody's imposing solutions on us, because Sri Lanka is an independent country which is very concerned about the sovereignty and its independence.
In a globalized situation, we cannot live in isolation. In the same time, we also need to understand, we have to reiterate, our foreign policy is Sri Lanka first. There is no two words about it. Every decision what we are going to take is on the basis of Sri Lanka's interest. By taking that particular decision, is Sri Lanka going to be isolated? Is Sri Lanka going to be strengthened? We will continue to do that, and we will not, whether we like it or not, be taking anybody's imposing on their solution on us. We are an independent country, so for some people sovereignty may not be interested, but we are very, very concerned about the sovereignty of this nation and our independence. And therefore, we will engage everyone, we'll talk to everyone, we will be open for discussion, but we will do what is right for our country. We will not be doing what is right for other countries. And therefore, it is very important, we want to make it very clear. We are friends for all and malice for none. We will continue to pursue that policy. And we also must understand, whether we like it or not, in a globalized situation and a globalized circumstances, things are moving fast. We may take decisions, some may work, some may not work. But as long as we take those decisions bona fide for the betterment of the country, not on personal agenda, I don't think we should be worried on that. And that is where we are.
Stay tuned, we'll be back with the stock updates. Welcome back, and now the stock update. Trading at Colombo Stock Exchange ended on positive notes today. The OSHA price index gained 65.27 points to close at 8,375.21, and the S&P/SL 20 gained 27.55 points to close at 2,640.31. The turnover was 2.8 billion rupees, and over 100 million shares were traded. Coming up next are forex rates. Well, that's a wrap from today's edition of State of Business. For this and more, subscribe to our channel on YouTube and follow us on Facebook. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.